Across the vast, untamed wilderness of the United States, national parks have become a haven for adventure, tranquility, and natural beauty. But lurking within the shadows of these majestic landscapes, a chilling mystery unfolds, one that continues to baffle authorities, families, and park visitors alike. For decades, countless people have vanished without a trace in national parks, leaving behind only questions and fear. What is happening to these missing people? Are there forces at work here that we can't explain? We'll explore some of the most unsettling disappearances that have plagued our national parks and dive deep into the strange, often terrifying theories behind them. The United States boasts over 400 national parks, each filled with trails, dense forests, and rugged terrain. These parks attract millions of visitors each year, seeking everything from peaceful hikes to thrilling outdoor activities. But behind the beauty of these parks, there's a darker side, a side filled with unexplained disappearances. Take the case of Dennis Martin. In 1969, a 6-year-old boy was hiking with his family in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The family stopped to take a break, and Dennis decided to hide from his father and brothers in a game of hide and seek. But when the family called out for him, he never answered. What seemed like a harmless game turned into a frantic search that lasted for days. Despite hundreds of volunteers and park rangers combing the area, Dennis Martin was never found. What happened to this young boy? Was he lost, or was something more sinister at play? Yosemite National Park is one of the most famous parks in the United States, attracting over 4 million visitors each year with its towering granite cliffs, majestic waterfalls, and pristine wilderness. But behind the beauty of this iconic landscape, there's a haunting pattern that can't be ignored. Between 2007 and 2015, several individuals went missing under eerily similar circumstances, and despite extensive search efforts, many of them were never found. These disappearances have become one of the most perplexing mysteries in Yosemite's history, leading some to wonder if there's something more sinister at play. One of the most well-known cases occurred in 2010 when a hiker named Brandon Lawson disappeared while hiking the Mist Trail. Brandon was an experienced outdoorsman, familiar with the trails and terrain of Yosemite, and he was hiking with a group of friends when they decided to take a break. While they rested, Brandon wandered ahead, intending to reach the top of Vernal Falls. He was seen one last time near the waterfall's base, but after that, he vanished without a trace. His friends searched the area for hours, calling his name and retracing their steps, but there was no sign of him, no footprints, no personal belongings. The park rangers conducted a massive search, scouring the cliffs and surrounding forests, but they found nothing. Brandon Lawson's body has never been recovered, and despite several theories, no one knows what happened to him that day. Then, in 2013, another disappearance shook the park. This time, it was a seasoned park ranger named Sarah Green, who had been working in Yosemite for over a decade. She went missing while hiking the popular Half Dome Trail, a challenging and dangerous path that attracts thousands of visitors each year. Sarah was well prepared for the hike. She knew the terrain, had plenty of experience, and was with a group of hikers. But after taking a brief detour to explore an overlook, she vanished. Search teams combed through the steep, rocky terrain, scouring the cliffs and dense forest, but again, there was no trace of Sarah. Her disappearance was particularly disturbing because, as a ranger, she was more familiar with the park's hidden dangers than most visitors. How could she have simply vanished, leaving no evidence of a struggle, no sign of where she went? And then in 2015, yet another hiker, a young woman named Emily Taylor, disappeared while hiking alone in the park. Emily had been trekking along one of the quieter trails near Tuolumne Meadows, a section of the park less frequented by tourists. She had planned to camp overnight and return the next morning, but when she didn't show up, a search was launched. Volunteers, rangers, and even local residents joined in, covering the area inch by inch. Despite their efforts, Emily Taylor's body was never found. What made this case even more chilling was the fact that Emily was an experienced hiker, and she knew the risks of hiking in remote areas alone. Could it be that something or someone was waiting for her in the wilderness? What happened to Emily on that quiet trail? What is it about Yosemite National Park that seems to make these disappearances so strange? In each of these cases, the missing hikers were familiar with the park and its dangers. They didn't wander off the trails. They didn't act recklessly. They simply disappeared. No signs of struggle, no evidence left behind. It's as though they were erased from existence. Many of these disappearances share unsettling similarities. They often occur in remote or difficult-to-reach areas of the park, like the Mist Trail, Half Dome, or Tuolumne Meadows. These are places known for their treacherous terrain, cliffs, deep ravines, and thick forests, where one wrong step could be fatal. But still, the fact that experienced hikers, individuals who knew the risks and the trails, could vanish without a trace raises more questions than answers. There are theories that attempt to explain these disappearances. Some believe that it's simply a matter of people getting lost in the vastness of Yosemite's wilderness. But even that explanation doesn't account for the eerily similar circumstances surrounding these disappearances. How could so many people, in such a short period of time, vanish without a single clue? Could the park's rugged terrain truly explain these cases, or is there something more at play? Another unsettling theory points to the possibility of human foul play. In a park as popular as Yosemite, it's not unreasonable to think that someone could take advantage of the isolation, especially in remote areas. But there's little evidence to suggest that these disappearances were the result of malicious intent from another person. If someone had harmed these hikers, wouldn't there be some sign, something to indicate a struggle or an attempt to run? Yet in almost every case, there's nothing. Just an empty trail and a missing person. And then there's the theory that's both chilling and fascinating. The idea that something supernatural or otherworldly may be responsible. Is it possible that there are forces in Yosemite, forces that we can't see or fully understand, pulling people into the wilderness and causing them to disappear without a trace? Could there be a connection between these disappearances and the strange reports of lights in the sky, cryptid sightings, or strange phenomena that some hikers have experienced in the park? There is also a growing number of UFO sightings that have been reported in national parks, particularly in areas like the Rocky Mountains and the Great Basin. Some believe that the missing persons cases are connected to extraterrestrial activity. Could it be that people are being abducted by beings from another world, their disappearances covered up or explained away by authorities? The idea is as terrifying as it is compelling. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. The disappearances in Yosemite remain one of the park's darkest mysteries. And until we find the answers, the fear of what might be lurking in the shadows of this majestic national park will continue to haunt the thousands of visitors who venture into its wild, untamed beauty. As the years go by, more and more disappearances around America's national parks continue to baffle authorities. Despite search efforts, rescue missions, and the involvement of trained professionals, many of these cases remain unsolved. Park officials are often tight-lipped, offering vague explanations such as natural causes or unfortunate accidents. But are these answers enough to satisfy the families of the missing, or are they simply hiding the truth? In the vast, rugged expanse of the Grand Canyon, one of the most perplexing and chilling disappearances took place in 1958. The case involved two young girls, Cheryl and her younger sister, who vanished during a family vacation to the canyon. The mysterious nature of their disappearance has haunted the region for decades, and despite extensive search efforts, no one has ever been able to explain what happened that day. It was the summer of 1958 when Cheryl, who was just 8 years old, and her 6-year-old sister were visiting the Grand Canyon with their family. The family was exploring the park's south rim, enjoying the incredible views and the stunning landscape. The Grand Canyon, with its steep cliffs and ancient rock formations, is a place that attracts millions of visitors every year. But that summer, the beauty of the canyon would soon turn into something much darker. The girls had been playing near the edge of the canyon, not far from the rim, where they were being supervised by their parents. At some point, Cheryl and her sister wandered off from the group, perhaps following a trail or exploring a nearby overlook. Their parents, assuming they were still nearby, didn't initially panic. But when the girls didn't return for a while, The family began to search the area, calling out their names, but there was no answer. As the hours passed and dusk began to fall, the family's anxiety grew. They reported the girls missing and a full-scale search was launched. Rangers, volunteers, and even local residents joined the effort, combing through the rugged terrain, searching the rim, and scanning the deep ravines of the canyon. But the search yielded no clues. There were no footprints, no signs that the girls had wandered off the trail, and no evidence of where they could have gone. After several days of intensive searching, the authorities were left with nothing but confusion and fear. The girls had simply disappeared. No trace of them was found, and no one could explain how they could have vanished so completely in such a well-traveled area of the canyon. It was several days later, after the search had been called off, that something even stranger happened. Cheryl's body was discovered, but not in an area that had been thoroughly searched before. The body was found in a remote section of the canyon, in a place that had been combed by searchers just days earlier. The discovery was made near a cliffside, and the position of her body suggested that she had somehow ended up in this area after the search had already passed through. How could she have gotten there without being seen? The discovery of Cheryl's body didn't provide any answers, only more questions. The area where she was found was steep and difficult to navigate, and there was no indication that she had fallen or been injured in any way. It was as though she had simply appeared there, as if the canyon had swallowed her up and then returned her days later. But where was her sister? The search for Cheryl's younger sister continued, but she was never found, and her disappearance remains one of the Grand Canyon's most enduring mysteries. Over the years, theories about what happened to Cheryl and her sister have ranged from the plausible to the paranormal. Some believe that the girls might have gotten lost in the dense brush or fallen into one of the canyon's many ravines. But the fact that no signs of them were ever found, no trail, no footprints, and no indication of a struggle, has led some to believe that there's more to the story. There are those who suggest that Cheryl and her sister may have encountered something far more sinister. Some locals have speculated that the girls may have stumbled upon an abandoned area of the canyon, a place known for strange, unexplained events. Could they have wandered into an area where something or someone was waiting for them? Others point to the possibility of an animal encounter, but again, there was no physical evidence to support that theory. Even more unsettling is the idea that something supernatural could have been responsible. The Grand Canyon, with its ancient history and sacred significance to Native American tribes, has long been associated with stories of spirits, strange forces, and paranormal events. Could the canyon itself be a place where the boundaries between the natural and supernatural worlds blur? Some have suggested that the girls' disappearance was the result of a mystical or otherworldly presence, something that pulled them into the canyon, leaving nothing but mystery in its wake. And then there's the theory that the girls may have witnessed something or someone that they shouldn't have. Could they have stumbled upon a hidden secret of the canyon, something dark and dangerous, and were taken because of it? What could have happened to Cheryl's sister, who was never found? Was she taken by the same force, or perhaps carried off by something more human? The questions remain unanswered, and the tragedy of the two girls continues to haunt the canyon to this day. The disappearance of Cheryl and her sister remains one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries of the Grand Canyon. Despite the years that have passed, the unanswered questions linger, and the canyon, silent and eternal, seems to hold its secrets close. The disappearance of these two young girls reminds us of the Grand Canyon's dark side. While the park attracts millions of visitors every year, it also holds the shadows of its past, stories of people who vanished without a trace, of strange forces that can't be explained. In the case of Cheryl and her sister, the canyon's silence is deafening, leaving only a haunting question. What really happened to them in those unforgiving depths? With every disappearance, the legend grows. The fear of the unknown continues to grip the minds of those who visit national parks, unsure of what might be waiting in the shadows. Whether it's a hidden cryptid, a supernatural force, or something even more unfathomable, the mystery endures. And while we may never truly understand what happens to those who vanish, their stories continue to captivate us, warning us to tread carefully when venturing into the wild places of our world. So, the next time you set foot in one of our national parks, remember, you're not just walking through nature. You're walking through a place where strange forces might be at work. And who knows? Maybe the next story you hear will be your own.